All right, what's going on, guys? Hey, I really appreciate you guys for rocking with my 2K content. This video here, I just want to hit on some points about Lamelo Ball because I've been following Lamelo Ball for a long time. I watched like all of his Lithuania games. I think I only missed one JBA game. I watched other JBA teams also, not just Lamelo. So it's not like I'm just a creep following Lamelo wherever he goes and watching only him. Like Leangelo, the Ball family, they're very interesting. So I watched a lot of their stuff, a lot of their leagues. Not they only had one league, but they also had that All American game. But anyway, I want to talk about ESPN. I feel like ESPN is apologizing. There was a guy, is his name Milk? I don't know his name. Bald guy with the glasses apologizing for being harsh on LaMelo. I'm not saying his apology wasn't genuine, but I also think it was in the best interest of ESPN to do that. Seeing how their current relationship with LeVar, LeVar does not concern himself with being on ESPN since he has been, I guess, banned. But I could see them kind of reneging a little bit on that if LaMelo does indeed keep up his current status as being like a top 3 prospect. The only thing I don't respect about ESPN is how they lowered his and I get this happens a lot. I don't know if you guys notice it. A player will be like top 10 in the ESPN high school basketball rankings, but if they don't get selected for McDonald's All-American, they take a deep dive. And it doesn't matter the reason. So like LaMelo's situation, he couldn't be selected for McDonald's All-American, according to the reasons McDonald's gave, since he formerly played for a pro team. So he couldn't be. It's not that he wasn't good enough to be. He just couldn't be. But the fact that he fell all the way to like the 20s from being up, I think he was in the top 15, number 12, I think that's the highest he got, was number 12 on the ESPN high school basketball rankings. But to fall all the way down to the 20s, I don't know. I think there was some politics there. But either way, that stuff doesn't even matter. And then it was just, people having to apologize, media having to come out and apologize for being so harsh on a guy that was one of the youngest in his class, and the way he played. Like, everybody's not going to play like a 10-year vet in high school. Guys are going to have flaws, but I don't even think he had what is it? Immaturity. Like, there's some immaturity. I think people was viewing him as immature because he was taking the crazy shots. At the same time, while in the NBA, Steph Curry was taking the shots and people were praising him for. We had a kid like LaMelo Ball, who apparently grows up watching this type of play, doing the same thing, and he's being chastised for it. He's just developing his game into the role he wants to play. Now, I will say, I think the mixtapes and all of like the YouTube stuff might have hurt LaMelo a little bit because it portrays him in a certain way. It only shows the highlights. It doesn't show the lowlights and stuff like that. So, plus, I don't think LeVar Ball's offensive system really did him any favors either, because, again, you have people saying, it's the system, stuff like that. But anyway, overall, I've watched LaMelo for a long time, and I think he's a really good player, but he's been a good player. The crazy thing is, when he went to the Drew League, me personally, I really saw like a little bit of a jump in his game, because, like I said, I watched the JBA games, but he was making, in the JBA, to me, sometimes he seemed like a point guard, sometimes he just seemed like the shooting guard. Like, he didn't seem like the point guard. But in the Drew League, he definitely looked like the point guard. And he could still score, but he could get other people involved. He looked like a modern NBA point guard in terms of the style he played, not in terms of talent level. He's still got a little bit of ways to go, but he's good, man. He's good. But I think he's been good for the age that he is. He has been good. Even in Lithuania, I think in Lithuania, that was just a huge shock. Huge shot, like a huge adjustment that he had to make. He couldn't play like himself. But I think that was good for his growth that he couldn't play like himself. Because now I've watched every preseason game, even the game he had a scrimmage before preseason in the NBL. I watched that. Man, watching the NBL is crazy because I got to get up at crazy times just to catch those games. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, back to ESPN. So the whole ESPN thing, I thought about it this morning, and I was like, okay, it's in their best interest to do that, and because they're going to be covering LaMelo Ball, so they want to get the past slights behind them. And if you think about it, Zion Williamson brought in millions and millions. He garnered millions of views for ESPN last year. ESPN is no dummy. They did a deal with the NBL to broadcast multiple games. I think every game that RJ Barrett and LaMelo Ball's teams will be playing in. They made a deal with the NBL to broadcast it. I forget on which ESPN station it's going to be on. I don't think it's going to be on the main ESPN station, but they will be following the NBL. So ESPN knows what they're doing. They're doing this for the clicks, for the views, because they know they're going to get millions of eyes when they have an RJ. Well, maybe not RJ. RJ might get a million views, but LaMelo Ball is for certain going to see millions of eyes on his, if he has a good game, if he has a bad game. So ESPN knows what they're doing. They do have an agenda, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing because they're a company, they're a business, they got to make money, but they do have an agenda as far as the LaMelo Ball thing. They're invested. This is part of their investment. They're investing in coverage of LaMelo Ball. And even when he went to Lithuania, if you think about it, they had coverage of LaMelo Ball. So this kid, I just hope they don't destroy this kid via ESPN as far as covering him, and if he has a couple bad games, them trying to pile on and destroy him again. I don't think they tried to destroy him before. I just think the criticism was more so due to LeVar Ball and not the development of LaMelo Ball. And I don't think his childhood was stolen. His dad gave him an opportunity to be put in place to make millions of dollars. I mean, the kid had a Lamborghini at 16. Would you want a Lamborghini at 16? Yes or no? And if you had a Lamborghini at 16, would you say your childhood was stolen? If you had a TV show at 16, would you say your childhood was stolen? If you had the national global spotlight at 16, 17, to a degree, you could say that, but it doesn't look like he doesn't. It's not that he does want it. It just doesn't look like he's trying to get away from it to me. So I don't think he's bothered by it. But I could be wrong. But that's something for LaMelo to answer, really. But even with all of that, saying LeVar stole his childhood, not trying to paint the picture as if LeVar stole his childhood, couldn't stations and media like ESPN just back off the coverage on him? Just cover the facts and the stats. Why do you guys really need to go out there and get video footage and put out several articles a month on LaMelo Ball like what they're going to do? Isn't that also taken away from his, from somebody being a child? So I don't know. I think ESPN is quick to say LeVar Ball ruined this and that for him because he didn't go the traditional U.S. route of being a high school student, NCAA. He ruined it. But then you get an NBA personnel in there saying, oh, he's top 3 talent right now. Right now, he looks like top 3 talent. Then ESPN is changing the tune But meanwhile, they're saying like LeVar is still in his childhood and all this. Meanwhile, they're doing all this coverage about Lamelo, even when he was in Lithuania. Like, well, if you want LeVar to let him be a kid, why don't y'all let him be a kid? Stop writing stories on him. See, that's the only thing I don't like, that hypocrisy. But whatever, man. Either way, ESPN is a company. They got to make their money. Okay. I see that. LeVar Ball, those are his sons. He, as a father, he is obligated to do what he feels is best for his sons, to put his sons in the best position. Some people are going to say he's living through them or whatever, but that's for him to decide. That's for him to decide. Like, these are my kids. I have to decide what I think is best for them. So far, you know, even with LiAngelo, like, you know, now LiAngelo is becoming a man, or like he's really growing into the manhood, so he has to make some decisions for himself. Lonzo gets to make decisions for himself now. But up until that point where they are becoming like real men, it is LeVar's responsibility to make these decisions. So I feel he's just doing what he feels is best. I'm not saying it always is the best choice, but that is what he feels will get them the furthest. But whether right or wrong, he has gotten his family pretty far. So, and at this point, he has two sons that now are going, you know, they're at a stage, at least Lonzo, he's at a stage where he fully can make decisions for himself. LiAngelo, he's at a stage where he's got to start figuring out stuff for himself. Not even start, I'm sure he's been doing it. But who are we to say? This is their family structure, so who are we to say? Anyway, man, LaMelo Ball, the ESPN thing, ESPN, they know what they're doing. Anyway, this is just me ranting about one of the players that I've been following, one of the prospects I've been following. So we'll see. All right, guys.